On this edition of Southern Newsweek, embattled Dunedin City Councillor Lee Vandervis squares off against the rest of his council. A career cabinet maker has made one last box and decorated it so he goes out in style. And fans of 1970s Japanese cars can get their fill of some fantastic examples at an exhibition in Invercargill. Kia ora, I'm Sophie Morris. Dunedin City Councillor Lee Vandervis has been directed to make a formal apology for his behaviour following an incident at a council meeting in July. Item 21 on Tuesday's DCC meeting agenda was a report into a Code of Conduct investigation which came about after July's meeting.
Alone in a crowded room. Embattled Dunedin City Councillor Lee Vandervis appeared to be on the defensive right from the start of his address to Dunedin's Mayor and councillors yesterday.
Thank you for this opportunity. Dunedin City Council decisions and reports should be evidence-based and balanced. In my experience, they are increasingly not evidence-based, and this latest Code of Conduct report shows how evidence can be suppressed or simply ignored.
Mayor Hawkins put a motion that Councillor Vandervis be allowed more than the customary 5 minutes to speak to the report. And during his address, which chastised the report's author, Vandervis also took potshots at the media.
I have complained about this investigator, which the ADT falsely reported as having found for my Code of Conduct complaint against the Mayor.
Councillor after councillor decried his behaviour when they debated yesterday whether he breached the Dunedin City Council's Code of Conduct by shouting at and pointing his finger in the face of Deputy Mayor Christine Gary after a meeting on July 28th.
I have no doubt that if an employee of a business behaved in this way, that they would have, at a minimum, received a written warning.
As councillors, we absolutely should hold ourselves to a high standard of behaviour. The public have voted us in as their community leaders, and we need to behave accordingly. The Health and Safety Act and Workplaces Act 2015 requires us to recognise not only the physical well-being of our staff and the people around us, but also the mental well-being.
It's not okay to react in this way. I regularly disagree with things, and okay, sometimes I can get a bit fired up too. But it's a different thing to take it as far as Councillor Vandervis has done.
You know you have an anger problem, and whatever happens with these recommendations, and I'll certainly be supporting them, I really hope that you'll take some mature advice and get some professional help.
The behaviour on display on the 28th of July was both inappropriate and unacceptable. The Code of Conduct uses the term disrepute, but another word for that is embarrassment. And this is embarrassing.
In a statement released following yesterday's meeting, Lee Vandervis said, "My problem is not anger management, but council mismanagement and misrepresentation." Independent investigator Steph Dyberg found Councillor Vandervis behaved aggressively, discourteously, and in a manner anyone would have found intimidating. The council says if an acceptable apology is not delivered by Tuesday next week, the council will revoke Councillor Vandervis's membership of the Otago Museum Trust Board and District Licensing Committee. In Dunedin, the South Today.
New Zealanders will get a chance to explore Fiordland free of the congestion from overseas tourists this summer. The Department of Conservation has been busy repairing tracks in time for summer after floods wreaked havoc to the area earlier this year.
Mintaro Hut at Day 2 on the Milford Track is being rebuilt 2 kilometres up from the old hut, which was discovered to be in a potential rockfall zone.
We spent a few years just coming in here once a year, making sure that there wasn't water moving through it, that the slips up behind here weren't moving, there was no prep, and really looking at the site as to what we needed to do as far as having the hut in the right place, facing the right way, so we implemented a sun study so that we could get the most out of the solar heating in the daylight hours to heat it so that we don't have to use as much fuel to heat the hut.
The new hut is set to cost almost $3.5 million.
I've done quite a few huts, so this one's a bit different. It's got the big portals in the main room, so you've got a big clear span. A lot of canalised timber everywhere. Very well insulated, this one. And there's been a real focus on the airflow in the rooms to keep the rooms dry.
Hikers on the Milford Track this summer will have to make do with staying at the old hut, as the new one is now set to be completed around March next year.
We started before COVID and then we got locked out. Then it was winter time, so actual time on site's not a great time. We're probably about 2 months actual on site work, but spread over the last 8 months.
Repairs and upgrades of all of Fiordland's storm-damaged tracks are set to be completed in about 3 years' time. In Fiordland, the South Today.
Over many years, Warren Ockwell's floats have graced Dunedin's Santa Parade as he's volunteered his cabinet-making skills for Rainbow Preschool and more. The Dunedin man, known to many children simply as Popper, has now designed and made the vehicle for his final farewell.
There's DIY, and then there's really doing it yourself. A retired Dunedin cabinet maker, Warren Ockwell, is undertaking a joinery project, which will take him to the great workshop in the sky.
I just wanted something different, and all the things on the coffin itself I've made, and this is connected to Rainbow Preschool and Santa Parade, and I've had a Speedy Signs, I hope I can mention that name. They did all the work on it, and they've done a lot of work on all the floats, of 14 of them in the Santa Parade.
Ockwell began making the coffin he's set to be buried in while his wife was unwell. He says there were only so many hours he could be at her bedside, so in the other times he learned how to make a coffin.
And I wanted something to do in the garage, and I couldn't leave the home for too long a period of time, so we had a discussion about this, and that's one thing I've never made in my life. I'm a joiner by trade, and it wasn't one thing I did a bit of study on online, and this is it.
He's had a 20-plus year association with Rainbow Preschool, having made their floats for Dunedin's Santa Parades. At 84 years old, Ockwell says every day is a blessing, and he's enjoyed volunteering his time with children during his retirement, saying it keeps him young.
At my age now, every day is a bonus, I feel, and I feel my friend up above is not finished with me yet, and I'm enjoying life with the children and young people. As you realise, as you get older, you haven't got so many friends around you. So now I really enjoy life, and you young people keep me young.
And as for the time when he's in the coffin, he knows family will be sad, but wants people to be happy and sharing memories.
Yes, it's just want something different, and I want it to be a joyful occasion, not a sad occasion. I want it to be a joyful occasion, and with all children's songs and everything like that.
Reflecting on his retirement spent volunteering at Rainbow Preschool, he says he's loved hearing parents say they're pleased that their children have a grandfather figure in their lives. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Lovers of Japanese cars from the 70s, 80s and 90s are in for a treat. An exhibition of more than 40 cars is now on at the Bill Richardson Transport World in Invercargill.
Japanese cars from the 70s, 80s and 90s are now on display at Bill Richardson Transport World in Invercargill. The collection of Datsuns, Nissans, Mazdas and other brands is bound to inspire feelings of nostalgia for car enthusiasts of a certain age.
Going back to when I was a young fellow, Japanese cars were never even thought of being a classic car. But I think as sort of people my age and younger who grew up with them sort of want to relive those years, I suppose, and Japanese cars have become very popular, very collectible, and sought after, which, as I say, was 20 years ago you never thought it would happen.
The exhibition includes the actual four-wheel drive Mazda 323 with which New Zealand driver Rod Millen won the Asia Pacific Rally Champs in 1989. Nearly all the 41 vehicles are owned by private collectors, who probably value their Japanese tin can on wheels more than when they first came out.
they're almost considered a throwaway commodity. And everyone collected American cars, Australian cars, and that sort of thing.
The Evolution of Japanese Cars exhibition is set to run until April next year. In Invercargill, the South Today.
Still to come on Southern Newsweek, a Dunedin teacher set to retire at the end of the year says he's enjoyed living a double life, and a high country farmer is blaming the bureaucratic process for delays to a rural land exchange scheme. Welcome back. One of the old masters at Otago Boys High School is set to retire this year, having taught many generations during his 4 decades of teaching. But to thousands of musicians and music fans across New Zealand, the name George Kay is revered as one of the country's most credible and long-serving music writers.
1976 and 77 were big years for George Kay. He began teaching at Otago Boys High School and began writing for legendary New Zealand music publication Rip It Up.
They ended up getting about 6 brand new Year 1 teachers in 76, which was a fairly big recruitment for OBs back then because the staff was pretty stable. And so the 6 of us ended up starting here, and I'm sort of still here.
Yeah. It's hard to see a 69-year-old George Kay as a ripped clothes-wearing punk rock fan, but he says his love of the noisy sound from the mid-1970s has kept him going over the years.
I love punk rock. Punk saved my life.
How's that?
Oh, well, I mean, we're all into progressive music in the early 70s, you know what I mean? Genesis, Yes, etc., you know, that sort of stuff. But I was getting disillusioned with it. I wanted to go back to the basics and energy and passion and guitars and stuff. And punk just came along and just at the right time.
His love of music and writing skills combined when he began writing for the then fledgling music publication Rip It Up a year after he began teaching.
I started writing for them in 1977 and I kept writing. I mean, to be honest, when deadlines were due and magazine stuff was due, I was working for 2 weeks every month. I was doing 2 jobs. Such was the stuff I'd had to do for Rip It Up. It was at least 2 weeks' work every month, which I enjoyed. I loved it. But at times, of course, it was tough. I'd have to burn the midnight oil.
At times, records from more alternative overseas artists have been hard to find in New Zealand, prompting even more crossover between George Kay's work life and after-hours love of music, when he set up a record club at Otago Boys High School, which ran for many years.
It was the time to start that. The boys were absolutely passionate about it, and it was a massive club. We'd 70 or 80 boys, and we'd meet every Friday in a room, and I'd rent out records for 20 cents a week, and with that money I'd buy more.
The 69-year-old currently teaches history and English and is set to retire from teaching at the end of this school year. In Dunedin, the South Today.
A high country farmer is losing sleep due to what he calls bureaucratic nonsense in relation to the government's slow progress, ending the tenure review process. Last year, the government decided to end the voluntary tenure review process, giving pastoral lessees an opportunity to buy some of their leasehold land, with the rest returning to Crown ownership.
High country farmer Charles Innes is frustrated with the government and the time it's taking to end the controversial tenure review process. And he's not mincing his words.
What's the answer to the question? Why? Why is it taking so long?
Bureaucratic nonsense.
In February 2019, Conservation Minister Eugenie Sage announced an end to the tenure review process, where farmers who lease land from the Crown can negotiate to have suitable farmland in exchange for giving less practical land back to the Crown. Innes blames successive governments for the length of time this is taking.
There's no give on the other side, it's just take. Our first proposal we did over 10 years ago was less than what we're getting now. So it's all about us saying yes, them saying no, and there seems to be no middle ground in it.
According to Land Information New Zealand, as of September 30th this year, 133 of the 303 Crown pastoral leases are in process, while 138 people or organisations who lease Crown land have chosen not to take part in 10-year review, which is something Innes considered.
I could bail out of it, yep. We bailed out of it once, and we're in it for financial reasons now, and to become independent, I guess, and not be held to account by the government, really.
He believes his property at Dunstan Downs is one the government has a keen eye on.
Especially some properties, they have their eye on certain properties, and this being one of them, they want that swath of land,
The Innes family has held the 12,300 hectares of Dunstan Downs Crown Pastoral Release land, which neighbours the Lindis Pass, for 101 years. It first entered the review process 20 years ago and hopes it'll be completed next year. At Dunstan Downs, the South Today.
The latest member of the Wanaka search and rescue team is keen to put his powerful nose to good work, tracking down lost and missing people. The new team member's name is Ice, and he's a German Shepherd donated by the New Zealand Police.
After 3 years of dedicated training, Wanaka volunteer Adrian Shute has got his search dog Ice ready to use a powerful canine nose in search and rescue operations.
There's two different types of dogs. There's a tracking dog and an area search dog. My dog's a tracking dog, and so basically it just tracks the scent. So if we've got a last known point, we can track the scent from there, and hopefully to find the lost party.
Shute is expecting about 10 search and rescue call-outs a year, and says they mostly seem to happen in the small hours of the morning.
A lot of them seem to be overnight, a lot of our searches that we do, so we end up going out at 3 o'clock in the morning and whatnot.
Tracker dogs usually begin their training at about 8 weeks of age, getting them to focus on a scent of human footsteps, a unique skill that doesn't suit every dog.
I actually got Ice from the police. I had a dog before Ice that we didn't quite make it with. So ended up the police offered a dog that they had, and I ended up getting Ice off the police, and he was just turned into have good drive for tracking, and that's a big thing. Good toy drive and good tracking drive is the two main things that you kind of need to train the dogs to get them up to the high level of what they are.
And the earlier dog that Shute started training but didn't make the grade has been rehomed in the North Island and turned out to be an excellent deer pointer. In Wanaka, the South Today.
Educators from Marine Sciences at the University of Otago visited schools around Dunedin with their aquavan. Pupils from Tahuna Intermediate had their turn in Tainui School's hall, with many youngsters testing their bravery with creatures in the touch tank.
Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's aquavan. Marine science educators from the University of Otago at Tainui School, giving pupils from neighbouring Tahuna Intermediate a hands-on feel for some aquatic creatures.
It was slippery, that slimy, that sea sausage or whatever it was, sea cucumber. It felt like it bit me.
Year 8 pupil Roma Morrison says she's no stranger to general coastal sea life, like crabs and some shellfish, but she enjoyed being amongst those taking turns holding sea stars, kina and the very slimy sea cucumber.
Well, sometimes there's crabs a lot that I touched and picked up, but not really starfish and that sea cucumber.
Year 8 teacher at Tahuna, Rob Wells, says excursions like this are a great way children can learn outside of the standard classroom situation.
It's a good hands-on learning experience for the kids, so they get to go around to all the touch tanks, have a look at all the species that are native around the Otago Peninsula for the kids. And they might experience some animals that they might necessarily sort of observe when they're down at the beach or if they don't get to the beaches.
When teachers take pupils out of school, and particularly to generally risky environments like beaches and foreshores, it can generate a host of paperwork, risk management assessment or RAMS forms and the like. Wells says walking to the school next door is a great way to see sea creatures in a risk-free environment.
Exactly, yeah, it's really easy for us. It's just a short walk down, and the kids, as I said, there's no paperwork to fill out in terms of ram forms for the kids, and it's safe to it's always good to get out to the beach set in the natural environment, but sometimes these animals are really hard to find as well, so if they can be easy to find for the kids and they can look at them, some of them they can be hands-on and touch in a safe environment, so it's really cool.
Aquavan is operated by the Marine Studies Department at the University of Otago as an outreach vehicle for community education. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Still to come on Southern Newsweek, an Invercargill water tank becomes an unwelcome home for bees, and a Wanaka curling fan gets his portrait painted at a local art show. Welcome back. A couple in Invercargill were surprised to find their water tank lid had been taken over by honeybees on Tuesday. A member of Southland Bee Society was contacted to rehome the bee swarm into more suitable lodgings.
Oh, come on, Queenie, where are you?
Southland Bee Society Chairman Jeff Scott spent much of Tuesday trying to lure the swarm of bees from the top of a water tank of an Invercargill house into a hive box so he could take them away. He says beekeepers are nearly always keen to pick up any swarms that people come across.
If anyone finds a big swarm of bees like this, the easiest way to get someone to come and pick it up is to ring your local bee club. So in Southland, it's the Southland Bee Society, or go onto their website and there's a list of people with contact numbers for swarming.
Scott was contacted by the house's owner, Carolyn Bingham, after the bees had chosen to use the water tank lid for their new home.
It's been there for about 2 days, but I just thought they were just sitting there and they were all going to fly away. But no, I went out this morning, there was more, a lot more, and I've never seen such a cluster of bees before.
Little scout bees go out, find somewhere else, which unfortunately was the lid of a water tank, which they couldn't fit into, but some of them aren't too good on the engineering side. And so then those bees come back to the clump and then send out to a couple of other bees who go and look to make sure the thing's good. They come back, then they lead the swarm to like they were here. Unfortunately, it wouldn't fit, but they didn't know that till it was too late.
Scott is predicting this summer will be a bumper year for both bees and wasps.
The end of November onwards will be a bit of a nectar flow. There's already one happening now. So the bees are making new homes while the going's good. But the good honey flow is normally around January, February. But this is going to be a good season because if you remember, we haven't had a decent summer in Southland for a couple of years, so we're overdue. So there will be a lot of this year, trust me. And unfortunately, so will it be with wasps later on, but that'll be another story.
Once Scott is certain that the swarm's queen has been transferred into the box, the bees will be taken away and checked for varroa mites and quarantined in case they have American foul brood disease. In Invercargill, the South Today.
A group of keen swimmers braved the chilly waters of Lake Wanaka to swim around Ruby Island recently. During their swim, they assessed the water clarity as a way of measuring the amount of the invasive algae called lake snow.
A chilly start for these keen swimmers in Wanaka this week. Thursday was supposed to mark the first summer swim around Ruby Island for the Wanaka lake swimmers, but the chilly temperatures of Lake Wanaka meant only the bravest took to the water. As well as regular exercise, the swim doubles as a science experiment, helping keep an eye on the growth of the invasive lake snow. Crystal Thunerson says there are numerous ways the swimmers help keep an eye on the health of the lake.
Last year we had to swim with a string attached to us just to see if the string would catch some of the lake snow. And one of the other things was before and after pictures with baby wipes, just to see how clean their face was before, and then afterwards how much green algae we caught, so how much it was in the lake.
The live science observation is part of the Touchstone project, which aims to understand what is happening within the lake. And Thunerson says the swimmers are not always just passive observers either.
And we have also managed to caught a leak going into the lake one day by the buoy line because we all noticed there was something yucky in the water, and Chris took action and found out what it was and took care of the problem.
Following the swimmers out in slightly warmer confines is inspiring environmental managing director Chris Arbuckle, who's been taking regular temperature and clarity measurements of the lake for the past 3 years.
When we started sort of looking at how much of the diatom, lindavia, the lake snow collected on swimmers when they swim around Ruby Island, And we need swimmers to do a full loop of the island, and then when they came back, we measured how much of the diatom, the algae, was caught on their skin. And it changed, obviously, week by week. When the lake warmed up, you got more algae growing.
Arbuckle says the lake snow tends to build up as the temperature of the lake rises, but has been much clearer lately, which he thinks might be down to the large floods last year.
Because it has a sticky kind of mucilaginal mass that kind of goops it all together. And maybe all that particulate settled out on it and sunk it down into the bottom of the lake, hopefully. But it'll still be here, but yeah, it's quite interesting that it's a lot clearer than previously.
The swimmers hope to be back out swimming around Ruby Island by the end of the month, with Arbuckle not far behind. In Wanaka, the South Today.
A farmer from Cadrona was the sitter for an artwork painted at the Wanaka Art Society's Labour Weekend exhibition. The live portrait was painted by artist and television celebrity Stephen Martin Welch.
Luggett portrait artist Stephen Martin Welch contributed to the Wanaka Art Society's Labour Weekend exhibition by doing a painting of a local farmer.
Live painting is very different to painting from reference material like photos and such. So, you're engaged a lot more, and especially with the audience, it's fun.
Welch has also presented and painted for television programs about art and says he doesn't mind people looking over his shoulder while he works.
It's good when people come and sit beside me, and they can see it close up, because a lot of the time it's either on Instagram or from the TV series that we did. So having people that have the opportunity to come and sit and see the actual stroke go down and the model it close up, it's good.
The painting's subject is Cardrona farmer and ice curler Ray Anderson, who says he enjoyed his first time sitting for a portrait.
Quite entertaining, really.
Quite entertaining.
Yeah.
Have you seen it? Have you seen what he's done so far?
Yeah.
Well, you have?
Yeah.
Do you approve?
I don't know who it looks like, but...
Again, I'm right here.
All right.
No, just going good.
And Welch admits one of the challenges was the beard that Anderson's been growing without a shave for 46 years.
It's the big brush. The big brush is the hairbrush. Yeah, the hairs, I've told I still have a lot of work to do on my hair painting skills, but that's what I'm here for, so it's all good.
The painting was bought by the Cadrona Curling Club and was presented to the model Ray Anderson, who has allowed the club to develop their ice rink on his farm. In Wanaka, the South Today.
That's all for Southern Newsweek. For the latest news from the Southern region, head online to odt.co.nz and follow Channel 39 on YouTube and Facebook. Thanks for watching. Ka kite anō.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.